Hello everyone and welcome to English Up. This is Mohammed Nabil and this is my series of videos to help you enhance your teaching skills. In the previous video, we talked about the third metaphor to help you enhance your teaching skills, which was language is a basketball and you are the coach. We also had a little talk about the principle of 80-20, 20% instruction and 80% practice. Today we are going to talk about practice in the two moods. Do you remember them? We said before that we have two moods of learning, the focus mood and the diffused mood of learning. First, let's start with the focus mode of learning. As you can remember, the focus mode is one in which the students need to zoom in on the details of learning. For example, it might be learning from a vocabulary list, practicing a particular tense, or working on the pronunciation rules. Small things focused. How would you help your students to tackle these kinds of assignments? Well, one of the worst things you can do when encouraging learners to memorize is to simply force them to sit down and try to learn everything at once. We all agree that most of the students insist that if it is good to learn 40 words, it's better to learn only 20 words. And if 40 is great, why not 80 in one day? The problem with this idea is it gives no time for the brain to process the information. It's like believing that if you can bake a cake at 350 degrees in 1 hour, then you can bake the same cake at 700 degrees for 30 minutes. It will save time, right? Well, let's face it. If you double the temperature, what you get? A burnt cake. And if you double the amount of information, you may end up frying your brain. For your brain to truly learn words and keep them, learners need to give their brains some time to process the information. One great word to do that is to use spaced repetition. Spaced repetition is a particularly good technique for students when they are trying to memorize lists, rather than learning all the words at once and considering the learning finished. Learners are invited to spend a limited amount of time with the material and then come back to it at a later time. Each time the learners come back to it, however, the amount of time increases. This allows for the learning to stick and become more automatic. There are many different systems people use for spaced repetition. A simple Google search will reveal many and different systems for spaced repetition. In addition to that, there are computer softwares and websites that are all designed to help you make lists for things to help you memorize and keep things quickly. But if you aren't into serious kinds of spaced repetition, here is an even easier tip. When you do practice a particular group of words during a week of instruction, please remember to try to use these words in upcoming weeks. Just giving your students lists, having them memorize those lists, and then leaving all that learning alone will only cause the students to believe that learning a language is nothing more than memorizing, taking a test, going home, and taking a shower to erase all this knowledge away. You know what I'm talking about. Never do it. Recycle those words throughout the semester. Have them reappear throughout your time together. Now let's talk about the diffuse mood. To practice in the diffuse mood in class, engage students in activities that move them beyond a list of words or a single rule. This means that you will need to zoom out and create general but not specific tasks for your learners. Creating a general task means you aren't asking them to perform a memorized bit of vocabulary or grammar, but asking them to perform in a more open style. For example, you could ask your students to order at a restaurant, buy some shoes, or talk about your best friend. Do you see how these are general tasks? Do you notice that in these tasks, there is more than one right answer and that students could talk for a short or long period of time. These tasks could include all kinds of vocabulary and invite learners to communicate in real and unscripted ways. At advanced levels of English, teachers often challenge students to think critically by asking questions that require students to synthesize and put together what they are learning. For example, by pairing two apparently unrelated ideas, you can invite students to consider how they might be related. Let me give you an example. The theme of our first 4 videos, which is motivation. Let's tie it to the theme of the other videos, which is practice. You can even ask some advanced English speakers a question like this: how is practice related to motivation? By taking these two separate ideas, practice and motivation, and asking students to put them together, you now engage students in not just language production, but critical thinking. Here students will naturally focus away from grammar, vocabulary words that they have learned, and focus on what they think, what they feel, and believe. Suddenly, they will get lost in the task and start speaking in a free way. Trust me, there is no more real context you can provide than asking students to engage in critical thought and serious reflection. Can you all think of any other times we have employed technique of putting two unrelated ideas together in order to help learners think? How is language like a camera? How is language like cake? How is language like basketball? I think you get the idea. Thank you for watching.